morning. I'm Pat Deere, and I am a marketing distributor with Send Out Cards. And I like to bring a little hope, healing, and happiness to the world. And today I have with me Jeff Styers, and he is with Aero Strategies. He's actually a friend of one of my brothers. And we reconnected because of his involvement with something that he does with the high school that I went to, Wayne Memorial High School, and it's called the Champions of Wayne. So I'm going to ask him a few questions, and he's going to share some things. And I just hope that what he has to say inspires some other people to get involved. And one thing I'm going to ask you, Jeff, and maybe you can talk about this down the road a little bit, is sometimes people feel like because they don't have the means, whether it's monetarily or time-wise, to do something in a big way, you know, what we can do to help in maybe just a small way, because everybody can help in a small way. Some people can help in a larger way. So, you know, kind of keep that in mind too, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I'm just going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do. Yeah.
Sure. Jeff Styers. I'm the founder and CEO of Aero Strategies. We're a national contract staffing firm headquartered here in Southfield, Michigan, with offices across the country. But my real passion is in giving back, and the neighborhood in particular where I'm from has a lot of need today. So both with my wife Lisa and myself, we look to give back. And I think, you know, trying to get back to where you're from has special impact and special meaning because you're so deeply rooted to that area. So we give back in a lot of different ways, but I think when we give back to where we're from, it has the most impact for us.
Mm-hmm. So I know you mentioned Lisa, and we grew up in a pretty unique neighborhood. We call ourselves the Parkwood Girls, and we still kind of connect with each other today, and it's pretty awesome. So actually, I got to reconnect with you because of the Champions of Wayne banquet my sister invited me to. I guess my questions are hope, healing, and happiness, but I'm going to do this a little bit. I guess, where do you find hope? Let's start with that.
You know, hope is, I think hope is what you make it, so it comes from internal first. But, you know, I see it, you know, I haven't just attended the most recent Champions of Wayne banquet. I see hope in the youth of today, and I see hope when they overcome adversity and they overcome a life track that seems destined for doom. But through their hope, they're able to turn their circumstances around. And whenever I hear these stories, it just it reinstills in me the hope that you see every day when, you know, a stranger does random acts of kindness for another without expecting any repayment. I mean, seeing that in today's dark world are all little glimmers of light that we can take hope in.
Exactly. So when I went to the banquet, there was 3 different stories that I heard. Well, heard a lot of stories, but can you share one in particular that you think might have help people really understand what it is that the kids get out of it?
Yeah, I just heard one last week. A young girl who's one of 13. Mom is a drug addict. Dad is not in her life. Her 4 siblings that are older than her have all been expelled from the school she's attending currently. And she was in a lot of trouble, and she had a 0.7 GPA, and school just wasn't important to her. She was skipping a lot. And through the Champions program, just hearing that, you know, one person, a mentor, a teacher at the school, who said, I believe in you, and the trajectory you're on is leading to despair, and here's your opportunity to change things around. And she has done that and went from a 0.7 to a 3.7 GPA. She's graduating. She has a full ride scholarship to Michigan State University.
Wow.
She is positive. She's delightful, very insightful as far as her shortcomings previously and how she changed it around and how she might help others as she goes forward. And, you know, stories like that are just very inspirational.
So that's part of the healing. You know, that's what I see in the healing part. Specifically, how did that happen for her?
You know, I do a lot of speaking, and like anything in life, I mean, it comes from a pivot point internally when you just stop one day and decide that you're going to behave and think and do things differently than you did before. And for her, when she looked back at it, she said, I really couldn't pin where my anger was coming from. I really couldn't pin why I was as negative as I was about life. But the minute my mentor challenged me and I decided, there's that word, I decided to change things, I did. And I think we all have that opportunity. So it comes from just that internal switch when we decide first that we're going to be different. And I think it has to start with that simple decision.
Yeah, so she did start with a decision, but there's also a program in place that allows her to decide to either be involved or not to be involved.
Absolutely. You know, one of the hits that the Champions of Wayne program takes is that it's kind of a pay to play. So these kids get a $200 check if they're able to hit their goal. And I'm not for that either, but here's what I found about the program. That's just the hook. That's just the hook to get a teenage kid in today's world interested in a program to do something differently, to be more formalized. But what the program is really about is the fact that everyone in the high school, from the janitor to the principal, are mentors. And for many of these kids, they haven't had someone who has cared about what their future looks like other than these mentors. And once they find that person and understand that someone does believe in them, that's what enables them to make that internal decision.
Exactly. And I think it's so easy to take that for granted that everybody has that. And
Right.
Our kids are lucky that they do have that, but not all kids are in that situation. And there's so many, actually there's so many programs like this, so many programs like what you're involved in that I think take a backstage to the negativity in the world. And that's really why I wanted to do some of these interviews. So happiness, that's a pretty easy probably thing, but where do you find happiness? If you kind of alluded to that already.
You know, again, I think your three words are all brilliantly simplistic, yet brilliantly complicated. Happiness, I also believe, is an internal decision, right? I mean, some people take things for granted and others count blessings in the little things. You know, I've always ran very fast in my life, you know, as a professional boxer and then as a business owner. I've always wanted to get to the next stage. And when you do that, you rob yourself of the simplicity of life. And that's where I think happiness lies. So it's waking up and hearing, you know, birds chirping. It's observing a tree in your front yard that you might have looked at for years, but not in the way you do this morning. It's about every interaction you have with people throughout your day. I think happiness lies in the little things if you allow it to. I think in today's world, I think we get a little desensitized about having to have the big things to make us happy, and that's just not the case.
I agree. I absolutely agree. So one other thing that I want to ask you, and this is one of my own little personal things, is what do you do consistently every day that helps you in your life? Personal, business, doesn't matter. I ask this because I was not a person of consistency, and I realize that really helps me to be consistent.
Yeah, you know, it's maybe oversimplistic, but I pray. I start every day with prayer. There's a sticky note on my desk that says pray. So sometimes when I get busy and I forget, I just have to pray. And I find when I do, you know, one, for guidance, and two, for gratitude, that when I do that, my day is just more balanced. It's the days that I get too hurried and forget to do that I later find myself a little stressed or disjointed. And when I go back to prayer, it always is kind of a reset button for me to get me back on the right path.
I can totally relate to that one too. So this is what I want to kind of end with here is how can people get a hold of you, whether from a business standpoint, which we really didn't talk about much, or from the Champions of Wayne? What can people do personally?
Well, you know, there's, you know, it's whether it's with the Champions or you know, a pursuit of your own desire. I think involvement. I mean, just putting yourself out there. You know, if you think about Champions, you know, fortunately you know, myself and Rich Helpy, who fund the program, you know, it'd be great to have a community to help us support that monetarily, but that's really not the biggest need. The biggest need is mentors. And if you think about that, that's just your time. So whether it's with the Champions or a pursuit of your own, I mean, just get involved. And many times that doesn't mean that a single cent has to leave your pocket. And I think the most impactful involvement you can have is just being there for someone. So whether it's a family member, an estranged friend, or a complete stranger, whoever it is, just be there for people, I think is the biggest thing you can do.
That's a great point. Thank you so much. So I have some contact information down here. If there's anything else that you want to add, let me know. When we get off of the line, I will get contact information on the Champions of Wayne so people can take a look at that as well. But I just want to thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing this positive, impactful thing that's going on that I think so many people are unaware of. And I really appreciate that you do it, that you're taking the time to share that with me today. So,
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
okay, well, let me stop this and just hold on for a second if you don't mind.
Sure.